Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your daily lunchtime show where we catch up on current events and headlines. Today is Thursday, the 27th of January. My name is Aurelia Samuyenga, and this is NMH at 1. We start off today's show with a bit of hopeful news on the sports front, as Namibia's renowned athletics coach Hank Botha said a lot of work has gone behind the scenes to once again see Namibia sprinters Christine Boma and Beatrice Masilingi competing over the 400-meter distance. In July of last year, Mboma and Masilingi were barred from competing in the women's 400-meter race at the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games due to their high natural testosterone levels, according to the World Athletics track and field rules. Botha, who is in December scooped the award for Best Coach during the Confederation of African Athletics Awards ceremony, told Nampa that a lot of work is being done behind the scenes in protesting the decision, which has left the athletes unable to compete in that discipline. Quote, "Every day we are busy training and preparing for competitions, but that does not mean that we are working on the issue of the girls being banned," unquote. He said, adding that the 400-meter sprint is one of their favorite track events and they would love to compete in it once more. As per usual, here at NMH at 1, we bring you a number of video news clips from across the country. We start off with the Riabo Cemetery, which was flooded during the past weekend, and the Riabo Town Council and private Riabo Cemetery Development Forum are still hard at work repairing the damages. Christine Kruger reports.
This video was taken yesterday by Amanda Groenewald, the chairperson of the Riabo Cemetery Development Forum. Both the old and new cemeteries in Riabo flooded after heavy rain this past weekend. Many graves collapsed and almost the entire cemetery was covered in water. Although the water has dried up by yesterday, the Riabo Town Council and Cemetery Development Firm is still hard at work repairing the damages. The Town Council and the firm met Monday to discuss possible solutions and also urged the public to visit the graves of loved ones. The new cemetery was added in 2017 as an extension of the old cemetery and is right next to it. Both of these cemeteries were also upgraded in 2019. Now they are working on placing stones around the graves to work as a barrier against the water. Sand is also being transported to the cemetery in order to fill up the graves. Ditches were also dug to divert the water out of the cemetery. The situation is currently under control.
As Namibia celebrated International Education Day with the rest of the world, various youth and education representatives called on renewed strength and resilience in the fight against COVID-19. The pandemic still holds the country's education sector and the well-being of learners in its clutches. Irene Marie van der Walt compiled this clip.
This special joyful moment of the commemoration of the International Day of Education is also the appropriate moment to count our blessing as a nation by celebrating our past successes and achievements in education as a country. Whilst we joyfully celebrate our successes and achievements, For the past year, we must also draw lessons from our challenges and setbacks to adapt to a better strategy to make our education transformation process stronger than before.
By now, evidence in all countries has shown that when schools close, children not only lose out on their learning progress, but also the safety of the school ground, interactions with friends, a route to healthcare, and too often, the only nutritious meal of the day. The government of the Republic of Namibia has made admirable efforts to keep schools safely open. And thanks to the strong leadership of the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, in collaboration with line ministries, communities, parents, partners, and also all the children and the learners, this was made possible. And Namibia was really one of the countries in the region, on the continent, that was showing the way that schools remaining open, even during the pandemic, was possible with the right measures in place.
Taking into account the changing nature of the work and the way we organize teaching and learning throughout life. In this context, we are eager to learn from the recommendation of the Presidential Task Force on for Fourth Industrial Revolution, especially its work group for future of work, that implies also future of education in Namibia. Education connects us with the world and to each other, exposes us to new possibilities, and strengthens our capacity to dialogue and action. But to shape peaceful, just, and sustainable futures, education itself must be transformed. Last November, as it was mentioned here, UNESCO released a global report on the futures of education, and it's even put plural, because there is no only one path. Entitled here, Reimagining Our Futures Together, a New Social Contract for Education.
The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated pre-existing education challenges, and the reliance on digital technology for education and learning has become a pressing need. This requires urgent rebalancing and collaboration between all stakeholders. Transforming education involves a political and societal shift to strengthen public function of education as a shared endeavor. As we start the new academic year with unprecedented challenges in our midst, I wish to implore upon all of us education practitioners to rededicate ourselves and devise well-informed and workable strategies on how we are going to execute our respective designated duties. Let us continue where we left off last year with more renewed energy and perseverance in order to accord our learners quality education that allows them opportunities to prosper in life.
Closing off our video segment for today is 83 children who were yesterday welcomed to the DHPS in Windhoek for their first day in school. The primary school teacher, Connie Hecht, warmly welcomed the parents as well as the first graders to school. This video was contributed by Claudia Reiter.
"83 children were yesterday welcomed to the DHPS for the first day in school.
Liebe Eltern der Klasse 1c, ich bin Connie Hecht, Leiterin der Grundstufe und freue mich sehr.
The primary school teacher, Connie Hecht, warmly welcomed the parents and said, "This is the place where I want to be."
Hat es in
is what our school song says, and I'm glad you feel the same way. Due to the corona pandemic, classes were enrolled in different time periods of the morning to give all families the opportunity to share the day with their loved ones.
Ein buntes Treiben, ein wunderbares Bild. Aber zurzeit ist es immer noch nicht so, wie es mal war. Deshalb haben wir aufgrund der Vorgaben unserer Regierung für dieses Jahr nochmals entschieden, die Klassen einzeln einzuschulen, um allen Familien die Gelegenheit zu bieten, ihre Liebsten an diesem Tag teilhaben zu lassen. Mich vorgestellt, ich bin Frau Hecht, bin eure Schulleiterin.
Hecht introduced herself to the so-called zebra class and welcomed them to the classroom.
Traut euch einfach was. Ihr könnt viel mehr, als ihr denkt.
She told them to just have the guts to do something. You can do a lot more than what you think. If you do something wrong, it doesn't matter. Just remember to be brave.
Das ist überhaupt kein Problem. Also, denkt dran, mutig sein, stark sein.
The teachers still recorded a short puppet theatre for the first graders to enjoy.
Such a noise. I took a nap because there's nobody in my class. Even Mrs. Heights walked out on me. So I decided to sleep for the rest of the year. So boring without children.
Let's have a look at the stories making headlines in today's national papers. We start off with the Namibian, which leads with the quoted figures from the Namibia Statistic Agency that was yesterday used as the government announced stamp of approval for a modified basic income grant to beneficiaries of the food bank, as well as grants for marginalized groups. The Transitional Basic Income Grant, or BIG, would be targeted to only be paid out to existing beneficiaries of the food bank and the grant to marginalized communities. However, the rollout will only commence once the country's economic situation improves. Today's lead story in the new era is in regards with the development of a 5,000-hectare irrigation scheme outside of the overflowing Neckartal Dam in the Karas region. Cabinet is expected to consider a public-private partnership towards this development, Agriculture and Water Minister Kalle Schlattwein said yesterday. The envisioned irrigation system would produce high-value crops such as wheat, maize, vegetables and fruits, as well as animal fodder to be produced for consumption and export to other countries. According to Allgemeine Zeitung, a story under the headline Oil Industry Buys Africa. The promises made to the world at the COP26 Climate Summit just 3 months ago regarding the systematic dismantling of carbon-based mining in Africa still seems to be a long way off, because every African state is now dreaming of the riches that the oil industry is increasingly promising them. Namibia seems to be no exception, as shown by Recon Africa's gas and oil exploration in the Kavango regions, while Shell started carrying out test drilling on the coast of Namibia last month. Neither Shell nor the government had commented on whether the reportedly oil and gas promising deposit would be suitable for the development of a deep water drilling field. The Namibian Sun reports on the court's testimony yesterday that President Hage Geingob reportedly approved the trip to Angola, for which disgraced former Fisheries Minister Bernardo Sau had asked permission to use the presidential Falcon jet to fly with his fishrod business partners, who are now his co-accused. According to documents presented by the Anti-Corruption Commission's lead investigator, Andreas Kanyangela, the request was made in June 2014 for the presidential aircraft to be provided to transport a delegation to Angola and back. We move on to the Republican, which leads with yesterday's announcement by the Namibia Statistic Agency of its preparations for the daunting task of carrying out the national census during a 2-week period in August this year. The national census must take place every 10 years, but was postponed last year due to the state of the COVID-19 pandemic in Namibia, as well as due to budget constraints. The Statistician General Alex Shimofeni said the expected cost of the census has been reduced to 606 million Namibian dollars, of which the government indicated that only 500 Namibian dollars will be released, while a fundraiser for another 40 million Namibian dollars was pledged. The statistic agency is looking for solutions on how to finance the 18% deficit. And now let's have a look at the stories on the inside of today's national papers. The Namibian reports how motorists in the capital are reacting to reported hijacking of a 27-year-old mother and her baby last weekend, who was allegedly assaulted by here men dressed in full police uniform. They were also using a car with blue and red flashing lights and appeared to be conducting a roadblock along Florence Nightingale Street and the B1 road. The stolen sedan was later found, stripped of some parts, but no arrest or recovery of the stolen items have been made. The education system in Namibia is fast becoming a privilege and not a right. New Era quotes the Students' Union of Namibia's Secretary for Policy Analysis, Brian Gushisano, who says education regarding as a human right in most countries of the world, which enables human beings to be proficient in basic and advanced numeracy and literacy. His question is, when will education be free at the disposal of the poor members of the Namibian population, as advocated for by the late Dr. Abraham Miyambo and many other Namibians who worry about the future of our country? We move on to Allgemeine Zeitung, which published this contributed photo of a mobile crane that collapsed at Swakopmund's uranium Husab uranium mine on Sunday. A second adjacent crane was also damaged during the incident. No one was injured, according to the Husab spokesperson Frida Abrahams. Their investigation to establish the cause are ongoing, she said. Swakopmund Uranium recently made headlines after workers demonstrated against a new bonus, which according to their trade union, only 30% of the workforce would benefit from. Meanwhile, more than 140,000 people have already visited the Namibian pavilion at the Dubai Expo since it opened its doors at the start of October last year. The Namibian Sun reports that while the United Arab Emirates introduced travel restrictions on all southern African countries due to the outbreak of the Omicron variant of COVID-19, this will not have a significant impact on Namibia's activities at the Expo. Namibia's participating at the Expo is anchored in the primary objective of positioning the country as an attractive investment destination by stimulating investor interest in the country, said Catherine Chipushu, Senior Manager for Marketing, Branding and Communications at the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board. And finally, be wary of the circulation of counterfeit notes. The Namibian police has warned, according to Republican, after 5 suspects were caught with counterfeit 200 Namibian dollar notes to a total worth of 30,600 Namibian dollars at Usakos on Sunday. The suspects appeared in the town's magistrate court on Tuesday and will remain in custody until February the 7th, when they will formally apply for bail. Police are also on the trail of a 6th man who they suspect produced the forged notes. Also, US dollar banknotes hidden in a silver metal container were found in the Big Brother guest house at Usakos, where 5 of the suspects were staying. The notes were printed on one side like American banknotes and were clean on the other side, a police source said. And that is it for your Thursday edition of NMH at 1. Please stay safe and have a blessed day ahead. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time, always at the same place. Until then, here's your weather update.